everyone, welcome to Eco Girl in a Modern World. This channel is dedicated to giving information and tips on how to try to live more, eco-friendly in a modern environment. I've stated before, I'm not perfect in my practices, but every day when I make purchases, when I go about my life, I try to do so in a very eco-friendly way. And I dedicated this channel to asking questions about that, how we can live more eco-friendly, and just to see what alternatives there are out there where our daily practices have little or zero impact on the planet. Now, I wanted to go ahead and put this video out. It's been a while since the last video. The last video was actually a lot of fun. We talked about the differences between synthetic fabrics and organic fabrics. And actually, this video is actually going to tie into that. So if you have any questions about the differences between synthetic fabrics and organic fabrics, please check out the previous video here in my playlist. But today's video is really going to tie into that because we're going to quickly talk about something that's very important. If you're watching this at the time the video posts, it's getting I'm in North America and it's getting very cold here. So we're going to go ahead and talk about bedding. And in particularly, we're going to talk about the bedding, the grades of warmth and how to transition year round with your bedding and how to do that in a more environmentally friendly way. Now, one thing I did discuss at length in the last video was there is a difference between synthetic fabrics and organic fabrics. So what I will be talking about primarily today is organic fabrics because that's what I do, that's what I use with my bedding arrangement now. And we will talk about like just the little nuances in it. But again, if you want to check out that previous video, the only caveat that I'm going to say with this video is that organic bedding, anytime something is a natural fiber, if it is cotton, linen, wool, if it is any type of natural fiber, it is not going to put any pollution into the water or ground quality. If it is polyester, if it is anything other than a natural fiber, and again, there's lots of videos on YouTube, also here on my channel to talk about that, but we're going to get into that a little bit. A lot of the bedding that you see nowadays have what they call a Poly-Fil, which is a polyester fill, and that is in essence plastic, but we are going to talk about that. But all right, I'm really excited to do this video just because it's a fun topic. It's cold. We all want to be warm and we all want to cozy up as we get into the holiday season with wonderful bedding that is good for our skin, good for our body, and good for the environment. So first or foremost, what we would talk about with bedding is the most important part of the bed itself, which is the mattress and the pillow. Now, there are green mattresses. There are mattresses that are either made of completely 100% organic rubber, which is almost like those, you've seen the impressionable mattresses, the ones that are like adjust to your body. And believe it or not, there is natural rubber, like rubber that does biodegrade. It comes from a rubber tree plant. And then there's actually a fun song. It's funny, oops, there goes another rubber tree plant. But but there is such a thing as natural rubber. It's just like cork and anything else, it's a little bit of a finite resource, and it takes a little bit of time for those trees to be grown and cultured and to get that product out of it. But there are several bedding companies out there. One that I can think of off the top of my head is called Avocado, like the avocado fruit. They sell mattresses that are either 100% natural rubber or 100% natural cotton with steel, completely recyclable or biodegradable. Now, the benefit of those is that, of course, it's that, just like we talked about in the previous video, that is excellent for your skin. You're not exposing yourself to any weird chemicals. Some of the bedding, some of the mattresses that you see that have either Poly-Fil, which is polyester, it can have particles that break off and affect your ventilation. It can irritate your skin. The way polyester is made is a chemical combinations. So sometimes the residue of that can really irritate your skin. Also, it makes it really hard to breathe because it's like sleeping on a plastic bag. But there are green mattresses, but the disadvantage of the green mattress is that until we get to a point where we are producing these, where like that's the primary choice, it's going to be a lot more expensive because it's going to be a custom thing. And actually, when we talk about wool, we'll talk about, you know, the buying dollar goes a long way. If we start putting our money towards wool or more organic things, then it becomes cheaper because we're, you know, the more it's produced, when the demand is high, then more people, more companies will produce that resource, and then the cost of it will eventually go down because there's, like, you know, again, competition. You know, if you have, you know, so many farms creating natural mattresses, so many companies creating that product, and then, you know, they'll compete with each other. The resources needed to produce that product will be made more, and then it will become more cost effective. So that's also a really good goal in all of this, is that if we actually make this the norm, then it will get less expensive for everyone. But those green mattresses, they are expensive. They do range for like a twin size, maybe like $1,100, and that's a lot of money. That's a lot of money for, you know, just a average working person like myself. So I do not have a green mattress. I wish I did. If I win, you know, if I become independently wealthy overnight, that would be one of my first expenditures. But my mattress is a Poly-Fil. It is a polyester filled, and then my mattress is a regular mattress. It's just, you know, the normal non-organic cotton. But just to throw it out there, there are those products that you can buy that are completely green, and those are really beautiful, well-made things, and, you know, good for the environment, and the parts of it are recyclable or biodegradable. Now, what we're going to talk about here is there are some great, you know, even though you have to go with the regular Poly-Fil pillow or the regular Poly-Fil mattress, there are coverings for that make it better for you. And those coverings, which it's not just the pillow, you got a pillowcase that is good for the environment. So you can still do, and every little bit helps, just because you can't do it all. And the other thing is that you get there in steps, right? We all get there in steps. So if you, so the way that we begin, and just to touch on the other video real quick, Poly-Fil is usually, it's really soft and it feels like plushy, like cotton filling. But what it is it is polyester or Poly-Fil or acrylic is all like chemically created fluff. And that fluff feels really soft, but the problem is every single time you wash that pillow, every single time you wash that acrylic blanket, little pieces of it break off, and there is a cycle that it gets into our water supply, and it also, you know, doesn't biodegrade. If one day in the foggy distant future, if it goes into a landfill, it doesn't biodegrade very quickly. So that's another reason that some of this bedding is really important, because bedding is what we use every single day, and you do rotate it out. You do eventually throw your pillows away. You do eventually throw your comforters away. And when you do that, you know, we have to consider seriously the end life of that product. So I have regular pillows, I have a regular mattress, but what I like to do is over my regular pillow, I do a, so there are the four major types of materials that are organic. First and foremost, the look, the feel of cotton. Cotton is a wonderful resource, and there's several different types of cotton, and we talked about that in the previous video. There's something called Pima Cotton, P-I-M-A, which is it's a more durable kind of cotton. It has longer fibers, so it really withstands wear. But every single time you wash cotton, you're not putting anything bad into your water supply. You're not putting anything bad into the ground when you throw it away, and it usually lasts a very, very long time. So what I do is I have if you have allergies, and especially if you have allergies, it might be your bedding, it might be your mattress, it might be your pillow, that polyester. It does sometimes affect you know, the way you breathe. I cover my pillow with a cotton zip up. It's almost like a second pillowcase. It's almost like you know, it would almost be like the slip underneath your pillowcase. I do use a cotton allergy, you know, tight weave cotton one to cover my pillow. So that's really nice. That's really nice. The other thing is by investing in that, it's not expensive. They're usually like $20 and still 100% cotton. And the beautiful thing about that is that it also it extends the life of your pillow, because even if you sleep, if you sweat, if you drool through your pillowcase, then it's just hitting the the allergy, the second pillow lining, and so it really protects your pillow and it extends its life, which is another good way that you can serve the environment, is you know, wearing it out, making it last, not throwing it away as often. Now, the next thing is so cotton is a wonderful thing. Cotton sheets and cotton fill. One thing I put on my mattress, almost like the same allergy liner that I put on my pillowcase, is you've seen mattress covers. And in the same vein as the pillowcase cover, it's like an extra padding that helps prolong the life of your mattress. If you have any accidents, you know, if it's for a small child, or, you know, just any accident that can happen that could put any type of fluids on your bed, you know, spills or anything else. The mattress cover, you can do, I've done a 100% organic cotton mattress cover. And it's neat. You can, if you have back problems, you can get the type of pillow covers that actually have like a separate pad, and that pad does not have polyester fill. It has cotton fill, which is really great. So just like we said in the previous video, it puts nothing but an organic fabric against your body at night. It's naturally, all natural fibers breathe really well. Like if you start to get overheated, it releases the heat, and if you start to feel cold, it keeps the heat in. It has an amazing like natural ventilation system to it. So, and my mattress cover is 100% cotton, and I've never had. It's funny. It's the same cost as a Poly-Fil one, and so that again is a wonderful thing. The more we put money towards, if you put your buying dollar towards the organic material, if you say that, okay, I'm going to pay for a cotton, you know, mattress cover, then it'll start to be produced more, and then there'll be more competition for those resources, and then it will get less expensive because it's being mass produced more. It's the consumer's choice. It's always the consumer's choice. So we, you know, environmentally friendly products does not need to be expensive. We just have to say that that's what we want, right? We don't, instead of buying the cheap, you know, the cheap comforter, the Poly-Fil comforter that has a short end life, if you actually say, okay, I want the cotton, the good, you know, the good stuff, it does get more cost effective because it's produced more and a more mass produced kind of way. And we'll talk about that more when we get to wool. But so I have a pillow, I have a mattress, I have a mattress cover, I have an allergy pillowcase cover. Now, the next thing is cotton is wonderful for just sleep sheet sets. Your fitted sheet, your flat sheet, and it comes in such a beautiful array of colors. And as we talked in the last video, you got Egyptian cotton, which is very tightly woven. It has more threads, so it's stronger. Either that, or you could pay a little bit more money. It is getting more cost effective as well to go with Pima cotton, which has the longer fibers that weave, and it withstands washing so well. And Pima cotton, just like any natural fiber, actually gets softer the more that you wash it. So that's always good alternatives, you know, to have the sheets and the lining, you know, even though you can't afford the fancy mattress, you know, organic mattress, you can do the padding over it, your sheet set over it in a natural fiber. And again, that's what touches your skin when you sleep. It breathes as you become become hot. And what happens is if you're using polyester or anything else, that traps heat in, and it you know, it keeps that sweat against you. And then of course the end life of the fabric is not good. So by making your sheet set, your you know, what goes against you, all cotton. And that's the popular alternative. You can get linen sheets if you want, but cotton is the norm, you know, for all of us on a regular daily budget. And then the other thing is that, you know, if you are just using that in summer, you know, that becomes your base. You know, okay, you got the mattress pad, you got, you know, your fitted sheet and your flat sheet. And then let's go ahead and talk about your pillowcase. So, you know, I've got that underlining allergy cover, but over that allergy cover, so you got the pillow, the allergy cover, the pillowcase can be 100% cotton, and a lot of times that pillowcase comes with your fitted sheet, comes with your flat sheet if you get that whole bedding set. So if you make that cotton, you're good to go. You could have a cotton pillowcase. Now, one thing that I like to do is I do like to have a silk pillowcase. And the rest of my bedding is not silk. If you can afford that, that's a wonderful alternative too. Silk is wonderful because first off, it breathes the same way cotton does. Of course, it feels like heaven against the skin. If you actually had you know, a bedding set, like a fitted sheet and flat sheet of a silk, that's fancy. That's nice. And that feels wonderful against your legs in the middle of winter. But the other thing is that silk is incredibly insulating in both summer and winter. And it's deceiving because it's so thin. You think, oh, okay, that couldn't possibly keep me warm. It does keep you warm. Now, I have a silk pillowcase I have two silk pillowcases. One is a complete, it's like both sides. It's like a envelope pillowcase that's all silk. And then I have one that zips up and the back of it is cotton, but the front of it is silk. But, you know, and that one was less expensive. That one that was like, you know, the back is cotton and the front is silk, that was less silk that actually touches my face. So that was like $25, which really you could spend that on a regular pillowcase for cotton anyway. But the wonderful benefits of silk is that if you have older skin, it helps to prevent wrinkles. And I know that sounds crazy, but when you think about it, any friction against your skin tugs at your skin, and you might be doing that in your sleep. So if you're rubbing your face or rolling, and, you know, so on a cotton or a regular, you know, cotton's pretty smooth, but if you have like a polyester or synthetic fiber pillowcase, it could be kind of tugging on your skin. The other thing is it's great for allergies. It doesn't have, you know, it's not a synthetic fiber, so it really helps with that. The other reason that I really love a silk pillowcase is because I have naturally curly hair, and sometimes that can be very fragile. It can have breakage. And so if you do worry about that, if you worry about, you know, your hair getting, and especially in the winter months when it gets cold, you know, you can have very long, lustrous hair, but if you dye your hair, and in the winter, just with the dry air, breakage is a consideration, and the silk pillowcase really goes a long way with that. And I'm just really spoiled. I got both of my pillowcases very inexpensively, and it not only helps with allergies, it's very delicate on my skin. I feel like my face looks better. I've never had any breakouts. I don't, that's the other thing, is synthetic fabrics can break out your skin because you're sweating and it's not breathing. Now, the only disadvantage with silk, with any type of bedding, is that it's not 100% vegan. It's not cruelty-free. Silk is created by boiling the cocoons of silkworms. So if you do care about being 100% vegan, of being 100% cruelty-free, silk is not. But then silk has never been cruelty-free. It's been produced that way for centuries. So, but of course, it's a very luxurious fabric, and it's funny. I even have shirts that are silk that are just so wonderful, that keep me wonderfully warm and all year round. But for bedding, especially, even if it's just your pillowcase, it's an A+, wonderful material. Now, the next material we could talk about, and actually in the same line as cotton, what I like to do is in the summer months, so you got your mattress, you got your mattress pad, you got your fitted sheet, you got your flat sheet, and all in cotton. So right now you got a good cocoon going. In the summer months, when it's really hot out, but you might have some air conditioning going on, the next layer I like to do is a cotton woven blanket, and I actually do 2 layers of that. But cotton, the thick weave of cotton, and again, it can be Pima, it can be Egyptian, those, what they call them like fisherman blankets. And they're so wonderful, guys, because it's like almost like knitting or or crocheting. It's if it's 100% cotton material that's knitted really really tight weave, you get a wonderful insulation. If you start to get too hot, it lets the heat out. When you start to get too cold, it keeps the warmth in. And what's beautiful about that is that on top of your cotton sheets, you can throw that blanket over, and if you start to get too hot in the middle of the night, you can just kick one of the blankets off. So it's a nice kind of layering technique, but it's still all organic fabrics. And you can kind of, as you go through the season, you can kind of gauge if you need more. What I like to do in the summertime is I like to have my sheet set and then just either 1 or 2 of those woven cotton blankets, just in case I get too hot or too cold. I can add one back on, or I can kick one off, and then I'm getting the right amount of temperature for however I'm feeling, or whatever grade my air conditioning is. Now, one other thing that's really nice about having the layers of cotton is I kind of have a foot blanket that's made of wool. And actually, let me go ahead and we'll talk about linen, and then we'll get into wool. But in the summertime, I like to just have the cotton, mattress, cotton mattress pad, cotton fitted sheet, cotton flat sheet, and then 1 or 2 of the woven cotton blankets. And then I do have like a red wool blanket that I kind of leave at the foot of my bed, where if the AC is really cranking, if I have a night that I've got the AC set on Arctic, or every once in a while you do get a cool night, every once in a while that's unexpected, I can just pull, if the 2 blankets I got aren't enough, I can just pull that wool blanket up. But the next thing is linen. Linen is a beautiful fabric. It's by the flax plant. It's very similar to hemp, but hemp is a little bit more coarse. Linen is very, very soft. The first time, if it's brand new, it might feel a little bit more coarse than normal, but it gets softer every single time you wash it, and it's extremely durable. It has really long fibers. So linen is wonderful, and it breathes like a dream. It breathes like a dream, and it keeps you warm. The other thing is it's naturally, and I know this sounds crazy, both linen and wool are naturally anti-fungal. I know that sounds crazy. It repels fungus. It's also anti-microbial, and it resists pests. Like if ants and other, little buggies, and in nature, there are little insects that like to feed off you. That's just part of nature. And I know that sounds really funny, but on a microscopic level, there's always things that like to eat either dead skin or sweat, perspiration. So having something that's linen or having something that's wool is very, very good for that. But linen is amazing for that. It's antimicrobial, antifungal. It naturally repels insects. And then you can wash it very, very easily. You can wash it very easily. You just throw it in the washer, throw it in the dryer on low heat, and it doesn't shrink so much. Now, linen does wrinkle. Linen wrinkles quite a bit, but you could have linen sheets if you want. The only disadvantage is that linen, because it comes from the flax plant, flax takes longer to kind of dry. And when it takes longer to dry, it makes it where you can't crank it out the same way that you do cotton. So cotton is the more mass produced for that reason, because there are seasons with flax and you have to kind of dry it, and so it becomes a little bit, it's not as easy to crank out. But what I do is I have what I call a duvet cover. A duvet, you know, D-U-V-E-T, and I believe it is a French word. What it is it's a cover that you put over an insert. So what I like to do is, as an adult, what I've really noticed is that, okay, so when you buy a comforter, it's just, you know, it's cotton, or it's material, it's a printed pattern over fluff, right? That keeps you warm. So now what the duvet does is does not include the fluff inside. It is just the cover. It's almost like, it's you know, there's an insert that you put into the duvet. So the duvet is the printed pattern outside, and then you can fill it. You could either use it on its own without any filling, or you can put the padding, the fluff, as an insert inside. And what it is that inside of the duvet, there's little ties, there's little ways, and then the insert has little loops. So what you do is, if you want to change the cover, you know, of your insert, you can basically use the same fluff, you know, and change the outside by getting a different duvet cover. Now, I feel like this is very environmentally friendly for several reasons. First off, the filling of itself, the filling, you know, just like your pillow, is the big deal, right? Because what we're doing is we're mass producing pillows that are Poly-Fil. All of our comforters, all the cheap comforters that you see at the mainstream stores, are full of polyester. That doesn't biodegrade. It has a chemical off gas. It gets into our water supply. It gets into our ground supply. But the alternative to that is getting a fill that is made of natural fabrics, like natural cotton or natural wool, and we're about to get into wool. But the beautiful thing about a duvet is that if you buy the fluff, if you buy the insert with a natural fiber, a cotton duvet insert or a wool duvet insert, then you have the fluff. You got the fluff right there, right? You got the innards of your comforter you have, and all you have to do is, if you want to change the outside of it, then get a new duvet cover. And that would be so wonderful, because the thing I think of is, the first thing that comes to mind is when you think about kids bedding, right? You think about kids bedding. As the child grows, you know, maybe we liked dinosaurs when we were little, and then we moved into trucks, right? And then either that, or it's like the more popular themes, like, okay, Barbie, or, you know, let me get, you know, the Marvel characters. You know, kids want their bedroom to be a theme. But every single time you buy that comforter full of polyester, what do you do when it gets out of style, right? What happens when your child outgrows that theme? Where does it go? Does it go to the thrift store? Does it get reused? Does it go to the landfill? Do we just throw that comforter away? Because that's the end life that we want to think about. Now, of course, we want to be trendy. That's cool. You know, you don't want to, you know, the purpose of this channel is to live in a reasonable way. It's not to live like we're out in the woods, right? You know, so we want to be trendy. We want our room to follow the theme of our personality. That's part of growing up, right? But one wonderful way that you can do that is you can have a plain insert. You can have the fluff separate. And then as the child grows, you can buy a duvet cover that's 100% cotton with the pattern that you want. So it's really encouraged that we kind of get into that mindset versus going and getting the bed set that's polyester, right? So duvets are wonderful for that. And my duvet is actually a light blue color. And it's linen. And I like the linen because for all of those reasons, it breathes really well. I can wash it very easily. Now, the only disadvantage of duvets is, first off, they're not made so much, and again, we can change that with our buying dollar. If the you know, if you want to see, you know, these trendy themes in duvet form instead of comforter form, if you put your money towards that, the companies will start making that. And then we just want it to be a natural fiber. You know, just make a duvet cover, a twin duvet cover with Barbie on it in cotton. And then you can reuse the insert. That would go such a long way. The other thing is that if you feel like, I know with little ones, if it's their favorite character in the world, don't deny them that, you know, try to, you know, we're going to try to be the change we wish to see. But another way is if your child likes stars, or if they like mermaids, or, you know, I've seen some really cute ones that are not like a specific theme that you know that's going to be out of style in like 2 years, you know, like the newest movie. It's kind of tough. If it's your little one's favorite thing in the world, then yes, we want to look for an alternative for that. But you know, but if it can be, you know, sun and stars, or suns or moons or mermaids, you know, something that will last a little bit longer, that's another thing that goes a long way, because that theme might last more like 5 to 6 years versus the movie that might be out of style in a year, year and a half, because that also perpetrates the cycle. Now, so I have a duvet. Now, the disadvantage of a duvet is that the only disadvantage of a duvet is that it's a little bit tricky to change the cover. And in the message box below, I'm actually going to post two really great videos that talk about it. There's 2 ways that you can do it, because basically what you have to do is you have to turn the duvet inside out. So you turn the cover inside out. You tie off the corners. You attach the corners to the loops of the insert, of the filler, you know, the fluff that you're putting inside the cover. And then there's 2 ways you can do it. There's a way that you can kind of roll it up like a fruit roll up, and then you turn it inside out, and I'll post the video that talks about that. Admittedly, I don't do it that way. I do what I call the bend and snap, which is I turn the duvet inside out, I tie off the corners, and then I kind of burrow inside and grab the inside of 2 of the edges, and then I stand up at the end of my bed. I kind of have a thing that I can stand up on, and I do a quick like a toss and snap that turns it inside out. And if I do it once on the right time, it's technique to it. I really have to be like, okay, 3, 2, 1, you know. But I did find a video of a guy. Of course, it's a guy, because I do it the guy way. I don't know why, but I saw a really funny guy who did it so charmingly that that's exactly how I do it. I call it the bend and snap, because it's like if you get it on the first time, it's just like, you know, it's almost like shaking out a blanket. It's like, you know, and it works. So I know that sounds so funny, but and my duvet is pretty big. I actually have a full size one, and I'm a short person. But so the disadvantage, long story short, the disadvantage is it's a little bit of mattress wrestling. It's a little bit of work, but you know, the days are when it's in the middle of winter, you know, that's when you have to put your insert in, is in the middle of winter. Goodness knows it's some good cardio. Some good exercise to wrestle your mattress. And that effort, you know, putting in that effort to say, okay, I'm going to reuse, you know, I'm going to make it where I can change out the cover and not have to buy a new Poly-Fil comforter. That goes such a long way. That effort is not in vain. That helps. That helps the environment. It really does. And it actually helps you too, because it really is. It's good for your skin. But I like a linen duvet, but of course the most popular one would be a cotton cover, and cotton covers you can print with anything. I mean, you've seen it. I have a friend who has a circuit machine, and he can do like, you know, you can do cotton bags and coffee mugs. So, you know, if you really wanted a cartoon character or you know, you can print that on a cotton duvet cover. You could probably even go to some of these websites and have it made. And as long as it's 100% cotton, that's the way that we want to go. Now, so what I like to do is in the summertime, sometimes I'll even just leave the duvet cover without the insert on top, and it acts like a second, like it acts like a second sheet because there's nothing in it, and it again, it breathes like a dream. It's wonderful, and it's so healthy for my skin. I never have as much allergies when I use all of my bedding. Now, the next thing we're going to talk about is that filling for your duvet. So if you do decide, okay, let me go with the duvet, and as I grow, if I decide to change the motif of my bedroom, if I paint the walls a different color and I need a different cover, you can buy a different, linen or cotton cover, and you could either keep the old one, or if you do end up discarding the old one, it's an organic fiber. You're not hurting the environment with that. Also, every single time you wash it, you're not putting any particulates into the water. But now the duvet insert, that filling, that fluff, the the Charmin-esque wonderfulness that lets us be a little blanket burrito in the middle of winter. Let's talk about that, because that is like, I just changed my out. And in the last year, I've always had a Poly-Fil. I had a Poly-Fil blanket, and I was like, okay, I'm hearing so much about both organic inserts, organic cotton inserts, and wool inserts. So basically there are 3 types of inserts that you can have. So that fluff that you're putting into the cover, so your cotton cover is the exterior, and the fluff inside can be one of 3 kind of fabrics. Now the first fabric can be 100% organic cotton. It can which is not that expensive. Again, that material is more mass produced. So it'd basically be the same thing as your mattress cover, except in duvet insert form. It's just basically the inserted fluff that has little loops at the corners that you insert into the cotton cover. That is the pretty exterior. Think of it as like a cake. The cake is the duvet insert, the icing, the pretty exterior is the duvet cover. Now, the one thing about cotton, 100% cotton, and this is a problem, this is also a problem with your mattress cover, is that cotton is water intensive. It takes a lot of water to produce cotton. And it's funny when you look at cotton balls, like the ones that you use to clean your face. And I've actually switched out. When we start talking about skincare, I'll talk about that too. It's not 100% cotton. You think it is, but there's still synthetic fibers in it. So the biggest danger thing is if you want to do 100% cotton duvet insert, you first want to make sure it is 100% cotton. You might want to look for 100% organic cotton, because that would be the best. If it's certified organic, then you're in a good place. But the only other thing with that is that organic cotton is going to be very water intensive, and it's not going to be as fluffy. It's not going to give you as much insulation as some of the other alternatives that we're going to talk about. Now, the next one we're going to talk about, which is down. Just like DOWN. Down is feathers. They're usually duck or waterfowl feathers. And down, you've seen down jackets, just like these feathers keep a duck or a goose warm, and it's really amazing. You can actually check on YouTube. If you look, or just Google it, the anatomy of a bird, they have under feathers. They have and these feathers really dove together and cover in like layers. So they have smaller feathers that kind of is like almost like their base layer, and then there's bigger feathers that go over, and it's really, it's a miracle of nature to see how their body creates that on their form. Now there are jackets, ski jackets. So down feathers are extremely warm. They have all of the same insulation. They have that stem and then the feathers. Now, The two disadvantages of down. The two disadvantages of down is, the first is that when you go to wash it, it bunches up because, of course, imagine a bunch of duck feathers inside, you know, kind of encased in the squares of your duvet. So that's one thing. Washing it is a consideration. And when we get into wool, we'll talk about it. It's consideration with wool too. But with down, what happens is it starts to bunch and then the feathers start to shift. So even though you have all these little patchwork squares of your duvet comforter, when you go to, you could probably wash it like normal, washer and dryer, but then the feathers aren't as well distributed and they start to bunch, and it affects the, you know, you have it hard enough to try to get the duvet insert into the duvet, but then you have bunching. Now, the second factor that's the biggest deterrent for me is that a lot of times there are some companies that claim that they are cruelty-free with the way that they gather the feathers, but unfortunately the way that you would get those feathers is usually by plucking live birds. And it's extremely traumatic for the animal. It leaves them bald, and it doesn't always grow back where it would if it's being claimed to be cruelty-free. It probably meant that that animal went to slaughter afterwards, which I wasn't real comfortable with. I'm a little bit of a hypocrite because I do eat meat. I'm not vegan. But honestly, in a lot of the research that I've done and becoming environmentally friendly, I'm starting to consider it. But I was not, I looked at it and I thought, oh God, you know, there are some videos that show how these feathers are gathered, and it's usually from a live plucking. And that's just traumatic to me, and I wouldn't want to contribute to that. But then there are other companies that claim that they do it humanely, and again, I'm not entirely well versed. I might actually do a video about that in the future to see what the humane alternative to that is. I don't know if it's like a natural shedding process, but I would be curious about that, and that's something I am going to explore. I think I will do a video on that, but that's the other reason that I wasn't really pro down. Now, the third alternative, which I am completely pro, which is really nice, is wool. Wool is a wonderfully versatile fabric, and there are several variations of the type of wool. Now, one thing that we're going to just talk about real quick is that there is something, when you look at the duvet insert, there's little patchwork squares, almost like a quilt. You know, there's little squares. And what that is that there's something called GSM, and that is grams per square meter. Grams per square meter is the amount of material that is in that square. So if it's 100% cotton duvet insert, the amount of cotton that is stuffed into that square, you know, in that meter square. So if you have a wool duvet insert, there are several levels of it. Now, I'm going to go ahead and put up a chart. This is really interesting, because the neat thing about duvets is that you can actually buy one for different seasons. So the lower the GSM weight, the less wool or the less cotton or the less down. It does apply to down as well. It's the amount of fiber, insulating fiber, that is in that square. Now, the lower the GSM, the lighter it's going to be. So there are, you know, duvet inserts that if you're in North America, or if you're in New England, where, you know, the springs and the falls get pretty chilly, you could go with maybe a 225 GSM insert. And again, you can use the same cover. You know, you can switch it out as it gets colder. You use the light insert when it's, you know, spring, fall, possibly summer. And then when it gets really chilly, you just take out that insert and then put in the heavy duty one. Now the heavy duty insert, now if you are really in a cold climate, or if you are dealing with like 32 degrees, freezing temperatures or below, you would probably want to do a GSM that is at least 375 to probably 450. 450 is pretty heavy hitter, and that's going to be a real squishy square. That's going to be like, that's going to, and believe me, I got one of those. Those are nice. But it's all the little squares, and they're full of wool. They're full of wool, and it's nice. Now, so that is one way that you can look at it. And again, there are so many different types of wool out there. And again, there's regular sheep's wool. Sheep's wool, it can be grown in America. It is also traditionally grown in other areas like Australia and Canada. And the beautiful thing about this is that wool is a little bit more on the expensive side, especially when you have to import it. But with shipping being as it is, if that resource is in demand and we create a demand for it, the cost of it will go down. And I'll actually post a link to a video that really talks about that. A lot of these farmers end up with excess wool that they need to sell. And if we actually get this into an economic loop, this would be so wonderful where we could actually make it cost effective to produce this product that has a low impact on, that biodegrades, has an end life, is environmentally sustainable. And the beautiful thing about wool is that sheep's wool, you've got several different types of sheep. The cheaper wool is the traditional sheep's wool, which is a little bit more coarse. If you shear lambs, like baby lambs, they have finer wool. You also have breeds of sheep like merino wool, which you've seen, the real fancy sweaters, which is more expensive but that breed is a rare breed of sheep. And again, if this becomes a demand, if farmers get into a market for it, the cost of it will go down because the demand is more and we're producing more. So it does become cost effective. Your buying dollar has a lot of power. But merino wool is really beautiful for that too, and it's so soft and it's very, very insulating. Now another type of wool that's really wonderful is alpaca. Alpaca alpacas are in the family of camels, and it's amazing, but they also have wonderful fiber on their body, and it's soft and it's fine and it has long threads that's very durable. And all of these variation of wool is extremely insulating. That GSM scale, if you put more per square, keeps you wonderfully warm. And it has all of the same properties as linen. It's antimicrobial, which means that it repels pests, it repels insects, it repels the little nasties on a microbial level, and it's also antiviral. Believe it or not, it is antiviral. And what's beautiful about this is that the impact on the animal is non-traumatic. And actually, there's a video that I'm going to post. There's a channel that I watch on both TikTok and I think they are on YouTube that's called I believe it's called The Right Choice Shearers. And what this is this is a woman in an entire company that shears animals, alpacas, sheep, for a living. And she is so talented, she's so empathetic, and she's so skilled at what she does that these, I feel in my environmental journey, it's like farmers, animal farmers, dairy farmers, these are artisans in what they do. And I feel like being a shearer is an artisan field. And this woman's really, this lady's really bad butt too. She's covered in tattoos. She's done this for a really long time. But what really touched me about that video was that just like, when I think about down and, the plucking of animals, it's not like that with sheep when you have a good shearer. a good shearer, and if you watch this video, it was so poignant. She talks about moving with the body of the sheep. She talks about feeling their breath, recognizing if they're agitated, making this a dance with the animal. And she has plenty of videos where she's even, she's been shearing new animals that have never been through the shearing process. And it acclimates the animal to getting used to the process. And it makes it where, yes, these are domesticated animals, but this does not need to be traumatic. And actually, by taking the weight of the fiber off the animal on the time scale that they're supposed to, if it's annual, if it's biannual, usually it's annual, or twice a year, that it makes them healthy and they get used to the process, and then it gives people this wonderfully biodegradable, environmentally stable product. And these animals, they have different uses. It's not just, fiber. There is breeding and other things that, farms utilize every part of the growing process. So, but it's really, it warms my heart as an environmentalist to see that, because it's a sustainable thing that does not hurt animals. It doesn't hurt animals. These animals will become domesticated. They'll get used to the process, and they can live very long lives and produce really beautiful fiber by being treated right, by eating the right things, by being grass-fed. And I just liked seeing that, because it's by buying a product like that, that's wool or natural fiber, you're not only supporting the farmer, you're supporting these talented shearers, and we're creating an economic structure that's sustainable, that can be produced in our own countries, and is good for the environment. Now, the last thing that's kind of fun is also a really popular thing on TikTok, is that these animals like alpaca and stuff like that, there's very charismatic farm owners. There is another channel that's called Useless Farm, and it's so funny, who does TikTok videos, but I'm a really big fan because it's just kind of funny the way she, but it's an operating farm, and they have 3 alpacas. They have 3 alpacas. It's Craig, Michael, and Greg. Or I'm sorry, Craig, Michael, and Keith. I'm sorry. And Keith is really cute. He's a big anxiety ball. But he's adorable. And they even have they have merchandise for Keith. But the other beautiful thing about being a part of this movement, and it is a movement, is that you could actually meet these animals. And it's funny, I've volunteered on a horse farm before. Every animal has a personality. All of my horses had personalities. And it's just so neat to meet the alpaca that gave you your socks, or gave you your mittens, or helped contribute to the GSM on your duvet comforter. But, but that's the beauty of all of this, is that it's all interconnected, and it's sustainable. It can be revolving, and you can meet the animals, you can be a part of that process, you can learn about that process. But the end result is that last year I did finally give up the Poly-Fil comforter. It's in storage. I haven't donated it yet, but because I wanted to see how the sustainable one would go. But I dropped about, it was about $250, which I know is not cheap. But when you think about it, if you go that route, if you go $200 for, and my insert is a queen size. It's a full queen, so it's bigger than most. If you're doing a full, that would probably be $175. But when you think about it, if you go that route, if you say, okay, I'm going to buy one insert, and that one insert is going to be the filler, it's going to be the inside of all of my comforters moving forward. And then if I just want to replace the outside, if I want to replace the duvet cover when the themes change, you still have that insert, right? You still have that, so you're prolonging the life. And when you think about it, if you add up the cost of all the comforters, if you add up the Barbie comforter, you add up the Stars comforter, and you're like, if we actually got to the point where we're just replacing the cover, a duvet cover could be $30, and then you already have the organic inside of it. Now, the benefit that's beautiful is you can choose your weight. So you can decide, okay, is this my winter blanket? Is it not? I went with the heavy duty one. I went with like a 400 GSM because I knew this was going to be my winter blanket. And I went ahead and I put the insert in. I did my bend and snap, and on the first try, by the way. So self high five. But I put it on my bed. So I've got my mattress, cover, the fitted sheet, the flat sheet, 2 blankets, and then my comforter, and my duvet inside of my duvet cover. And this thing is amazing, guys. It is amazing. When I had the regular Poly-Fil comforter, I sweat. I was either extremely hot or extremely cold. It was either I had the blanket on or the blanket off, because it is like wearing a plastic bag when you're wearing polyester, when you've got a polyester bedding. This breathes the same way. When I get too hot, it lets the heat out. When I get too cold, it retains it in. I used it all last winter, and where I live, we had 18-degree nights overnight, and I was fine. I was so warm in the morning. I was just cuddled up and content. The other thing is I feel like my allergies have gotten better, which I know sounds a little strange. I'm beginning to wonder if I didn't have some kind of reaction to the Poly-Fil. And then I do keep a wool blanket over top it, but it's almost just kind of there. I kind of call that the 3-dog night. If I'm really, really cold, I've never been cold with just that comforter insert combination. Now, the only disadvantage is it is a little bit pricey, but every review I've ever seen is the same thing. Like, if you add up all the comforters that you traded out over the years, it would be the same cost. So it is a little bit of an investment. The other thing is to find a duvet cover, which again, I think is becoming more popular when you want to change out the theme of the cover. The only other thing just to bear in mind is that when you first get the insert, it smells a little bit like lanolin. Lanolin is a natural softening agent that is in the hair of a sheep. And actually, I'll go ahead and show you. This is a new Christmas decoration because I've been studying all this. But lanolin is almost like kind of a little bit of the natural oils that are on the fiber of a sheep. So when you first get a duvet like that, there's actually it actually is a natural softening agent. And when we get into washing, stuff, we're going to talk about that. But it smells a little bit like a barn, but it aired out really quickly. I think that I only noticed it for like the first 24 hours. So if you do put the bedding in if you store the bedding over the summer and then pull it back out again, you might get that barn smell for the next, maybe day or so while it kind of airs itself out. The other thing is if you want to wash a duvet cover, that's very easy. You just throw it in the washer. Wool bedding is a little bit like the down bedding in the fact that it might bunch a little bit. The other thing is, just like any other wool thing, it might shrink if you put it in the dryer. But the one I bought and a lot of the ones that are on the market are washable. But what you would want to do is you'd want to be extra careful to throw it in the dryer on a low heat. And to be honest, you probably don't have to wash it that often. And I know that sounds a little bit funny, but you probably don't. Unless you got a stain on it, unless you had an accident, you probably don't want to launder it very often. The other way that you can do it is if you do have a clothesline, you can put it out in the sun, and that works very, very well to disinfect it. Or you could spray it down, with a natural disinfectant, like, there are options for, natural kind of spray down kind of things. One last alternative is that there are dry cleaners that have a green process. If you want to do that, it would almost be like you taking your wool winter coat to the dry cleaners. And again, you only have to do it for the insert part. The outside part you can wash as much as you'd like. If it's a cotton, And I really just feel like I've been sleeping wonderfully. it's been a wonderful transition. I'm on the second year of using it, so I didn't, I wanted to wait and do this video until I actually had some experience to back it up. But, for $230 and using the same duvet, my linen cover duvet, I can wash the linen. I'm very, very happy with it. And I've just been sleeping so wonderfully. I feel like it's gone a long way to helping my health, my ventilation health, my skin health, and it's keeps you warm. And of course you can kind of trade out. You can do the layers. And it can be very, very stylish. You don't have to just make it one theme. You can choose the colors of all of these fabrics. And the most beautiful part about all this is that it has an end life and it's biodegradable. And if we actually contribute to this, if we make this the bedding of choice, that can not only sustain economies, but it can sustain the planet, which is really where we want to go. But I hope this was helpful, and I hope everyone stays warm and cuddly this winter season. I do look forward to doing another video close to the holidays. We're going to talk a little bit about like eco-friendly gifts and just, holiday traditions that we can make a little bit more green. So, but I thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye.